Everything here turned into sand. 100 years ago, this place became a tomb of the desert. The oceans evaporated, and the earth transformed into sand. Zenon was just a boy who suffered and worked endlessly. After years of being exploited by outsiders, he discovered that the desert was his weapon. Zenon was the only mage in the world who could control the desert sand. But before that, in this cruel world, the weak lose absolutely everything they have. Desperate, a man tries to fight for his life as he sinks into the sand. Being swallowed, he understands that he's dying simply because he's weak. Going back 100 years into the past, a beam of light struck the planet. It began consuming every single form of life existing on Earth. That beautiful planet, which once harbored so much life, was being completely covered, becoming then a desert tomb with practically no sign of life, leaving the few surviving humans to build their own fortress to survive. Questioning why they left insects behind, he complains about the situation. Right after, he's thrown with force against the wall of a vehicle. With a smile, the aggressor says his hand just slipped by accident. Apologizing, he asks the boy's name to properly apologize. Looking up, he answers that his name is Zeon. Laughing loudly, the man asks if he has no father for having only one name. Seeing the boy's expression, the man asks if he's finally gotten angry. Saying they should be friends, the man grabs Zeon by the shoulder with force. Thinking for a moment, Zeon wonders what crime that man could have committed. Reacting quickly, he lands a precise hit right on the aggressor's face. With the impact of the blow, the man is thrown backward, falling abruptly. Standing up next, Zeon says he got it wrong and asks if he wants to know. Clenching his fist, he reveals the reason was murder. Switching to Neo's soul, he explains that only those with power are human. In an alley, he tells how a thief tried to rob him and ended up dying. Fallen on the ground, the man says his brother is Lee Jiryong and threatens him. Upon hearing the name Lee Jiryong, the boy's expression changes completely. In this world, those who awaken powers are considered gods among humans. Discovering he was being hunted, he fled inside that bus. Then the man calls him, making the boy look back in surprise. Wiping his mouth, the aggressor asks with a smile if he's done already. Seeing his own hand, Zeon is shocked by what's happening. Thrown with violence, the boy flies through the bus corridor. Fallen on the ground, he screams in pain from the impact received. Revealing he's there for the same reason, he says Zeon crossed the line. Desperate, Zeon laments having found who he tried so hard to avoid. With his power released, the man says he needs a lesson. Realizing the situation, Zeon becomes completely paralyzed without reaction. Suddenly, the entire bus is shaken with an absurd force. Irritated by the jolt, a man yells, asking the driver to watch the road. Up front, the driver was slumped over the wheel without responding. Not understanding, the man asks what the driver is mumbling. Seeing the scene, he realizes something terrible is about to happen. In panic, the driver screams that they weren't going to the mine. Shocked by the revelation, the man asks what he just said. Crying, the driver screams his last desperate phrase. He reveals they're being swallowed by a giant creature. Screams of despair echo as everyone is thrown from side to side. Remembering his past, he realizes the cycle always repeats. Whether in Neo Soul or being devoured, none of that was unusual to him. Fighting for his life, he understands that in this world, the strong always defeat the weak. With his eyes closing, he accepts that he's dying because of his weakness. Stretching out his hand, he resigns that this is his end. Imagining what it would be like if he were stronger, he knows it's a useless thought. Completely covered by sand, his body disappears into the deep darkness. Only his hand remains on the surface, sinking more and more slowly. His fingers move one last time before vanishing completely. Then, his hand is finally swallowed, disappearing from sight forever. At that, his eyes suddenly open with a frightened expression. Gasping for air, he awakens suddenly as if he had come back to life. Coughing heavily, he tries to catch his breath after everything that happened. Inside his body, something different begins to emerge, changing everything. In the desert, debris from an ancient civilization can be seen everywhere. With his eyes wide open, he becomes aware of the situation around him. Through the sand, the structure of a destroyed tower reveals the devastation of the place. Further away, another tower rises amid the ruins of the city. Reflecting in his gaze, the immensity of the desert can be clearly seen. Enormous ancient structures collapse, raising a large cloud of dust. Processing everything, he slowly closes his eyes, absorbing the harsh reality. Shifting to space, the now desert planet is surrounded by asteroids. In his eye, a new and vast universe of power begins to awaken. Manipulating the sand, he uses his new ability with full force. Landing a powerful blow, he strikes the head of the giant creature. He watches from inside the cave the remains of the monster falling. In this cruel world, he's covered in sand and a blue liquid. Even though injured, he stands up, determined not to give up on living. With his eyes glowing, he faces the future with a new determination. Before the defeated monster, he promises himself that he will survive. Feeling the energy flow through his body, he narrates how his heart pounds hard. Clenching his fist, he finally understands that this is his awakening. Meanwhile, another solitary figure faces a giant creature in the desert. Moving quickly, the monster charges forward to attack the unknown man. Without fear, he prepares for combat and challenges the creature to strike. Turning his attention to Zeon, He says the boy is his guinea pig. With a serious look, he shows he's ready to begin the fight. Being thrown far away, he flies from a sand explosion. Falling hard onto the sand, he screams from the blow he received. Surprised on the ground, Zeon is shocked by that man's strength. Noticing the approach, he wonders how the man got so close. On top of the creature, he complains about the height and asks how it grew so much. Suggesting it come down, he positions himself to attack the giant monster. Then he raises his leg, ready to deliver a crushing blow. With a devastating impact, his strike hits the creature with full force. Impressed, he can barely believe what he just witnessed. Seeing the man pull the sword from the creature, he understands what an awakened is. Appearing beside him, a girl shouts that he's Captain Jang Young Byum. Grabbing the boy, she wonders if that was the fastest death. Feeling his arm freeze, he realizes the incredible strength she possesses. Walking toward them, the captain says the monster wasn't an opponent. With a serious look, he carefully observes the interaction between the two. Asking them to stop, the captain approaches the pair still arguing. Making a greeting, the girl named Giselle turns with a smile. With a quick movement, she sweeps his leg and knocks Zeon to the ground. Falling onto the sand, he lets out a cry of pain as he's immobilized. Sitting on top of him, she prepares to discover the rank of his ability. Touching his arm, her expression changes when she doesn't find what she was looking for. Confused, she asks the chief why he isn't an awakened. Screaming in pain on the ground, the captain reveals he doesn't have an insignia. Lying on the ground, Zeon refuses to believe he doesn't have an insignia. From inside a vehicle, a man rushes the group, yelling about the sunset. Holding the boy, Giselle asks the chief what they'll do with him now. With a thoughtful look, the captain analyzes the situation and makes a decision. Still on the ground, Zeon just watches the conversation without saying a word. Giving the order, he tells them to throw Zeon in the back of their vehicle. Speeding through the desert, the military vehicle kicks up a huge cloud of sand. Inside the car, the driver gets chewed out for going out alone. Lying in the back, Zeon hears the argument while the vehicle shakes hard. Looking up, he notices the sand is moving by his will. Falling from the ceiling, a small stream of sand trickles right beside him. Sitting and tied up, he confirms he awakened his power by controlling the sand. Questioning why they can't see his insignia, he notices a different color. Looking at his arm, he sees the insignia is the same color as the sand. Understanding the situation, he realizes the insignia's color represents his power. Magic type awakened, for example, always have a blue insignia, while combat types, like the captain, have the red color. Remembering there are other types, he manipulates the sand with his hand. Surrounded by the power, he realizes he's never heard of sand control. Although his insignia is rank F, he feels infinite potential. Breaking into a wide smile, he shows his confidence in the newly discovered power. Deciding to wait, he resolves to hide his ability until the right moment comes. He then declares that the entire world will still become his stage. Arriving at their destination, they spot the mine surrounded by rock formations. Observing the location, Zeon comments there's a normal checkpoint there. Yelling, a guard orders him to follow, but Zeon warns he's tied up. Being led by the guard, the captain and Giselle watch the scene from afar. Suspicious, the captain finds it strange he's the only survivor of the attack. Shaking his head, he states with certainty that wasn't luck. Looking to the side, he keeps wondering who that mysterious boy is. Remembering the hole in the creature, he tries to understand what really happened. As Zeon enters the mine, the captain says they should have asked his name. Shifting to the city, the nightlife shows quite lively and bustling. Inside a local bar, several people eat and drink in a very carefree manner. Pointing a gun, the guard tells Zeon to shut up and wait for the supervisor. Asking if he'll be left there, Zeon hears the guard threaten him back. Turning his back, the guard says a rat like him can't do anything. Looking for a place to eat, he starts walking through the city streets. Approaching a stall, he excuses himself to an old man who's cooking. At that moment, his eyes widen, noticing something that leaves him very surprised. Looking to the side, he sees a propaganda poster for the mine workers. Offering a drink, the old man asks if he doesn't find the poster inspiring. Putting his hands together, the old man reveals the energy source isn't the stones. Not understanding, Zeon asks what the real energy source of the city would be. Pointing directly at him, the old man says the real source is him. He explains that rats like Zeon are the true fuel that moves the city. Countering the statement, Zeon says at his age he should worry about other things. Asking how the experience was, the old man hears the rumors have already reached there. Warning there's no escape from here, he says Zeon will become trash. With a smile, he says he'll show something interesting and points to the side. In a dark corner, several boxes are stacked on a metal shelf. Not understanding, Zeon asks what those things are. Hearing that he collected them, revealing their remains of those who came before, he warns that's his future. He explains that at first everyone tries to resist, but that's the nature of the mine. Afraid of dying, they sell everything they have to survive. But in the end, they're just delaying the inevitable and nothing really improves. Eventually, everyone ends up with the same fate, surrendering to the darkness. The old man finishes saying that trash like him leave nothing behind. With a serious expression, he stares at the old man, while holding the meat skewer. Ignoring the provocation, he asks the price, receiving the answer of 10 sol. Complaining about the price, he hears that everything there is a very expensive luxury. With an ironic smile, he simply warns he has no way to pay that amount. Accusing the old man of deception, a man in the crowd defends the boy. At that, everyone in the place pulls their knives and surrounds that man. With a smile, Zeon warns he won't pay a single cent. Suddenly, he's grabbed from behind by someone in the middle of the crowd. Surprised, he turns his face to see who grabbed him in the darkness. The old man asks if he didn't find it strange for a business to operate there. Surrounded by everyone, he finds himself in a situation with nowhere to run. With a smile, the old man asks what he intends to do now. With anger, he slams his closed fist hard on the table. Trying to talk, he says he has no money and asks them to calm down. The old man says he doesn't worry about that and accepts a trade. He reveals he'll accept the mana stone that's in Zeon's pocket. Shocked by the revelation, he wonders how the rumor spread. Extending his hand, the old man asks for the stone in exchange for a fair price. He then remembers everything he had to do to protect that stone. Asking the old man to forget the debt, he tries to negotiate a bit more. Then one of the thugs grabs his head with absurd strength. Irritated, the man yells to the boss, saying to bury the kid for good. Using his ability, he strikes the man holding him with a blow. In shock, the crowd holds the man's arm that was ripped off. At that, a huge wave of sand throws everyone back violently. With a menacing look, he observes everyone with his eyes glowing in the dark. Yelling at him to look, the man shakes him to bring him back to reality. Asking if he's okay, the man says he seemed to be daydreaming. Tossing the mana stone onto the table, he places it right in front of the old man. Handing over the crystal, he says that's the stone the old man wanted so badly. Examining the item, the old man seems to think about how much that stone is worth. Hearing it's worth 100 sol, he shouts that the real value is 300. With an angry expression, he hears the old man say that everything here is scarce. Banging his head on the table, he gets frustrated with the unfair negotiation. Clenching his fist, he thinks it's not yet time to act against them. Asking for a decent bonus, he faces the old man with a determined smile. While a man gets robbed, the old man warns that there are many thieves around. Since it's his first trade, the old man offers an item as part of the payment. Pointing to the boxes, he says Zeon can choose whatever he wants. Searching through the items, he says he hoped for something useful, but only found junk. Watching the boy, the old man finds his behavior and interest curious. Seeing the boy rummage through everything, the old man comments on his petty vitality. Finding a strange mask, he's surprised by the item he found. Hearing what he says, the old man tells him a caravan left the item behind. Deciding he won't find anything better, he chooses to take the hourglass. As he walks away, the old man says he has a knack for trash. Turning to leave, he asks what that man's name is. Shouting, the old man reveals his name is Klexi, surprising the boy. With a smile, Zeon says they should never meet again. Watching the boy leave, Klexi says they'll still meet again. Placing the hourglass on the ground, he begins to observe the object carefully. Analyzing the time, he calculates the sand will take 10 minutes to fall. Moving to the lodging, he sits on the bed to be able to concentrate. Taking a deep breath, he tries to relax to focus all his attention on the object. With his eyes closed, he continues the breathing exercise slowly. Holding the hourglass, he uses his power to try to move the sand. Seeing his reflection in the glass, he realizes nothing happens with the sand. Getting no result, he understands the item has no relation to his power. Thoughtful, he says he's never seen that object before in his life. Even so, a strange feeling of déjà vu makes him think a lot. Feeling called by the object, he doesn't understand that familiar sensation. Kicking the door, a man asks if he's the newbie who arrived today. Shouting, the man asks why he hasn't gone to the mine yet. Correcting the man, Zeon says his name and that nobody told him. With a quick movement, the man lands a blow, throwing him far. Closing his fist with force, the man shows all his rage. Telling him to shut up, the man knocks him down with a strong blow. Holding the boy on the ground, he asks if this looks like a joke to him. He says a loser like him should just shut up and take a beating. Giving the order, he tells Zeon to hurry up and follow him now. Fallen on the ground, Zeon just watches the man walk away from the place. Marking the name Manhwa, he promises he'll kill him one day. Changing scenes, a train is seen at the entrance of Sector 3 mine. Arriving at the mine, Manhwa orders them to give the equipment to the newbie immediately. Explaining the rules, the miner warns the costs will be deducted from his payment. Surprised by the conditions, he tries to say something but is abruptly interrupted. With a quick blow, Manhwa's pickaxe breaks his helmet. Shouting angrily, he warns the helmet will also be deducted from the payment. Giving the order, Manhwa tells them to throw the boy into pit 972. Threatening the other miner, he forces him to obey his order immediately. As he's taken away, Manhwa shouts he'll kill him if he comes out without a stone. Being led through the mine, the miner explains, Manhwa lost everything gambling. Surprised, he discovers all kinds of entertainment exist at the location. Inside the elevator, they talk about business thriving with idiots like Manhwa. Worried about getting hurt, he hears he doesn't need to worry about that. The miner explains nobody has ever gotten hurt, leaving Zeon even more confused. Arriving at the destination, he prepares to enter the dangerous tunnel 972. Asking if it's just mining, the miner interrupts him, saying there's no coming back. He tells him more than 12 people have already disappeared there, and they're betting on his life. Apologizing, the miner locks him inside the dark and dangerous tunnel. Thanking him for going, the miner shows he feels a bit sorry for the boy. Screaming in despair, he asks where the miner is going and leaving him alone. Realizing he was left behind, he's completely shocked and without reaction. With a lot of anger, he screams and complains about being thrown there for no reason. Slipping, he ends up dropping his pickaxe, which falls into a deep hole. Desperate, he tries to grab the tool, shouting for it to come back. Walking through the cavern, he wonders what kind of place this is. He notices dense mana and wonders if the others didn't feel it. Going deeper, he questions where all that mana is coming from. Moving carefully, he descends to the bottom of that dark cavern. Suddenly, he spots his pickaxe, which was lying among the rocks. Happy to find it, he steps on something strange and slippery. While congratulating himself, he notices a strange circle forming on the ground. With wide eyes, he wonders what that thing is. Realizing it's a portal, he's pulled inside without being able to react. His helmet falls, illuminating the broken pickaxe left behind. The helmet's light illuminates the darkness of the place for an instant. Remembering his past, he recalls when he was abandoned by his parents. In his memories, he got beaten for stealing food to not go hungry. He also remembers getting beaten for wanting to have a dream in life. After an incident, he was threatened and had to spend his life running. Remembering the persecution, he just wanted to live without fear of dying. Even on the ground, his only wish was to have a normal and peaceful life. Fallen on the ground, he wakes up in a completely unknown and strange place. Getting up with a headache, he complains the place is hot and humid. Touching the ground, he discovers everything around him is just ash. With wide eyes, he tries to understand what's happening around him. Then he remembers that moments before, he had fallen inside a portal. This makes him realize he's now inside a dangerous dungeon. Looking at his surroundings, he wonders what just fell from the sky. Gripping the rock, he realizes the object is extremely hot to the touch. Screaming in pain, he runs around the area to get away from that heat. Understanding it's not a dream, he regrets not being prepared for the dungeon. Analyzing the volcanic ash, he knows he needs to get out of there quickly. Tying his shoelaces, he prepares to begin his escape journey. Deciding he needs to find the exit, he starts looking for a path. He then concludes the most likely exit is at the highest point. Knowing he can't stay still, he takes advantage of there being no monsters. Taking the shortest path, he starts running as fast as he can. Running through the dungeon, he shouts that he'll never give up on surviving. Managing to hold on, he nearly falls off a lava cliff. Just then, a piece of rock breaks off, making him slip. In a panic, he screams for help while trying to hold on to the edge. Unable to save himself, he ends up falling into the river of hot lava. Screaming in pain, he says a little lava doesn't scare him. Collapsed on the ground, he breathes with difficulty after so much physical effort. With a clenched fist, he fills with rage and determination to continue. Swearing revenge, he shouts that Manhwa is dead when he gets out. Taking a deep breath, he calms down and realizes anger only makes everything worse. With determination, he promises himself he'll fight and survive. Looking at his goal, he calculates there are only 4 jumps left. With the exit so close, he prepares for the final challenge. Focused, he concentrates on moving without stopping and without overthinking. He shouts to himself that his life can't end that way. With one last effort, he prepares to make the final leap. Jumping toward the exit, he's surprised by a giant monster. Emerging from the lava, the creature reveals itself covered in spikes all over its body. With a quick movement, the monster dives back into the lava river. On the surface, only a few bubbles remain where the creature submerged. Emerging from the lava, the monster reveals its giant, terrifying head. Drops of lava fall from the monster's body, showing just how hot it is. Fanning himself with his clothes, he complains about the intense heat of that place. Realizing he can control the ashes, he rejoices at his discovery. Collapsed on the ground, he's surprised by one of the monster's eyes. He complains that the dungeon environment is more brutal than the monsters themselves. Unable to breathe, he feels his consciousness slowly fading away. Collapsed on the ground, he wonders if this is his end. Closing his fist, he refuses to accept death so easily. Complaining about the injustice, he says he can't die that way. Stepping firmly on the ground, he prepares to use all his power. Manipulating the ashes, he apologizes to an uncle and creates a distraction. The creature attacks the decoy, giving him an opening to escape. Hearing a voice, he wonders what interesting ability he possesses. Startled by the voice, he asks if it's his uncle talking to him. Praising his skill with the sand, the voice leaves him very surprised. In that instant, a mysterious figure falls from the sky toward the monster. With a smile, an old man's face is revealed in the middle of the fall. Startled, he realizes that same old man is falling from the sky. Holding his enormous sword, the old man prepares to deliver the final blow. With a smile on his face, he brings down his blade with full force. Sensing the imminent danger, Zeon shields himself from the incoming attack. A powerful strike hits the ground with an absolutely devastating impact. The force of the attack causes the entire ground to start shattering. Several pieces of rock fly in all directions from the force of the blow. Collapsed on the ground, the boy screams because of the attack's shockwave. Not understanding what happened, he wonders who that old man is. Looking around, he wonders where the monster and the old man went. He then spots the old man standing on top of the defeated creature's head. Leaning on the ground, he realizes that man's power is completely different. Revealing his armor, the old man shows he's on a totally superior level. Walking in his direction, the ground breaks beneath his feet. Stepping hard, he asks what the boy wants so badly. Emerging from the smoke, a boy appears and the old man asks his name. Demanding an answer, the old man starts a countdown to intimidate him. With his firm voice, he continues the countdown, increasing the pressure on the boy. Without hesitation, he proceeds with the countdown, making the atmosphere increasingly tense. Reaching the end, the boy's expression shows all the fear he feels. Staring at the boy, the old man says he got the answer wrong. Not understanding, he wonders why he can't hear what he's saying. Confused, he says he can't hear, making the old man even more irritated. With a smile, he says he can hear him now, but the old man doesn't believe it. With his eyes glowing, he simply tells the boy to die once and for all. Begging for his life, he asks the old man to spare him from death. Irritated with the stalling, he shouts, asking for his name once more. Hearing that his name is pathetic, Zeon gets irritated with the old man's comment. With a swift strike, he moves quickly toward the boy. Grabbing the boy, the old man finally reveals his name is Diodon. Not understanding, Zeon wonders what that man is doing with him. Demanding an answer, the old man starts a countdown to intimidate him. With his firm voice, he continues the countdown, increasing the pressure on the boy. Without hesitation, he proceeds with the countdown, making the atmosphere increasingly tense. Reaching the end, the boy's expression shows all the fear he feels. Staring at the boy, the old man says he got the answer wrong. Not understanding, he wonders why he can't hear what he's saying. Confused, he says he can't hear, making the old man even more irritated. With a smile, he says he can hear him now, but the old man doesn't believe it. With his eyes glowing, he simply tells the boy to die once and for all. Begging for his life, he asks the old man to spare him from death. Irritated with the stalling, he shouts asking for his name once more. Hearing that his name is pathetic, Zeon gets irritated with the old man's comment. With a swift strike, he moves quickly toward the boy. Grabbing the boy, the old man finally reveals his name is Diodon. Not understanding, Zeon wonders what that man is doing with him. Realizing the situation, he realizes the old man saved his life twice. Looking at that man, he's impressed and wonders just how strong he is. Questioning who he is, the old man responds irritably that his name is Diodon. Screaming, he asks who has that much power and where they could be. Then the man says that from now on, this is his hunting ground. Smiling, he tells the boy to see with his own eyes who he is. With that, he speaks the word crayon, and a mark appears on his chest. Suddenly, a huge form materializes, rising from the ground right in front of him. Grabbing his head, he screams, asking what is happening. Seeing the whole scene, he questions what that man is doing there. Out of nowhere, several creatures emerge in the air, and he screams without understanding anything. Amid the chaos, the older man shouts to get his attention. Yelling forcefully, he orders the boy to survive all of this on his own. Soon after, one of the creatures grabs him, starting to lift him into the air. Surrounded on all sides, he says the creatures are too fast. Unable to dodge, he ends up taking a direct hit to his shoulder. Right after, he receives another blow, but this time to his leg. With no way out, he complains that there's no escape, and they only hit him from the left side. Being attacked, he tries to break free from the creatures that hold him tightly. Next, two creatures rush at extremely high speed in his direction. Taking several blows at once, he's thrown backwards, screaming loudly. Fallen, he says he can't keep up with the movements with his eyes. Then he wonders what to do, because he'll die if he stays still. Remembering the man, he says he'd be an idiot if he died now. Confused, he looks up and asks what it is that he heard. Pointing in his direction, the man says he can't hear him properly. While bleeding, he says he needs to find a way to see the enemy. Seeing him standing still, the older man shouts from afar, calling him an idiot. Then the old man warns he'll show him why he's an idiot. He then receives the instruction to gather mana in his eyes and concentrate. The voice continues, telling him not to look, but rather to feel the mana. At that moment, one of the creatures flies in his direction to strike, but now he faces the creature head-on, waiting for its attack. Focused, he states that now he can see with mana, no longer with his eyes. Seeing the creature's mana, he needs to counterattack at the shortest possible distance. Managing to dodge, he's amazed by the old man, saying it's not possible. In the midst of the attack, he wonders if the old man predicted all of this. When a giant creature appears, he screams, asking who that old man is. Laughing, the old man advances and lands a blow, saying it's fun. Then his strike goes right through, causing massive destruction across the entire scene. With a smile on his face, he screams insanely, asking for more. Right after, he yells for the creatures to keep coming at him. With a powerful blow, he advances, destroying the ground and hitting the creature. Hit directly, the monster recoils and the man says that's a shame. Leaping toward the monster, he prepares to deliver the final blow. Complaining, he says it's disappointing and he'd barely started warming up. Impressed by the scene, the boy says this is total madness. Walking through the area, he says he can't believe the old man killed that thing. Starting to laugh, he says he doesn't think he can do that anymore. With that, he looks forward and says that's it, the X foot. Suddenly, a gigantic explosion happens, lifting the ground of the entire place. Feeling the impact, the boy screams as he's thrown far away by the force. Unable to stay on his feet, he falls to the ground and starts vomiting heavily. Asking what's happening, the old man answers it's the boss's roar. Then he explains that every dungeon has a final boss at the end. After that, he reveals that's the real reason he came here. Looking scared, the boy asks if that creature is really the boss. With a smile, the old man says the creature is finally there. Then he shouts the creature's name, which emerges in the middle of the explosion. Asking if that's a dragon, the old man says, unfortunately it's not. When the old man says it's at least rank B, the boy is surprised. Right after, a force field forms around the creature. Placing his hand on his head, the old man asks if he's heard about this. Then he explains that rank B monsters or higher possess unique traits. Continuing, he says a red force field is the combat type. Meanwhile, the creature forms a barrier with its power. With the barrier formed, he shouts that the monster is the magic type. Advancing against the barrier, the old man attacks with a single blow. Seeing the barrier breaking, the boy stands frozen without reaction. Shocked by the scene, he says none of this makes any sense. At that moment, he realizes that nothing he knows matters before the old man. In an instant, the old man advances and lands a direct hit on the creature. Attacking first, the creature rushes with its claws at the old man. Quickly, he defends himself, blocking the creature's blow with his sword. Exerting force, he manages to push the monster's claw away to defend himself. Meanwhile, the creature opens its mouth and prepares a new devastating attack. Even with the danger, he just opens a smile and faces the monster. Right after, he lands a full-force blow to the creature's head. Laughing loudly, he asks the creature if it's in a lot of pain. Gripping the sword tightly, he says he'll end its pain. Then he screams very loudly that today will be the day of its death. Scared, the boy screams that today is the day he's going to die. Not understanding anything, he yells for those lunatics to just use their words. At that moment, he's thrown far away by the force of the exchanged blows. With a war cry, the old man advances and delivers a powerful strike. Impressed, he complains about how the shockwaves do all that. Trying to protect himself, he endures with difficulty the force of the attacks. Laughing a lot, he yells that all of this is pure fun for him. With that, he compares the fight to an amusement park, shouting the name of the great creature. Then he leaps toward the monster, causing a huge explosion on the ground, breaking everything. The impact force hits the boy's location directly. Standing in the middle of the destruction, he just observes everything without any reaction. Seeing the scene, he's paralyzed, not knowing what he can do now. Suddenly, the ground opens up, and he ends up falling into a giant hole. While falling, he slams hard against the walls of the enormous hole. Continuing to fall, he looks up, seeing the fight that became distant. Now, on the ground, he lies down, bleeding and looking at everything from below. Then in his eye, the reflection shows the battle that still continues happening. Lying down, he watches the exchange of blows between the old man and the creature. Laughing hard, he asks the drake if that's all it can do. Then he shouts that a dungeon boss shouldn't stoop so low like that. At that moment, the creature prepares itself, gathering a massive energy inside its mouth. Seeing this, he says that the monster is indeed a boss with a trick up its sleeve. Firing with everything it's got, the creature launches an incredibly powerful energy beam. The attack then expands, turning into a massive whirlwind of pure energy. After releasing the attack, the creature stands there with smoke pouring from its mouth. Searching for the old man, the creature asks if he was looking for her. Appearing out of nowhere, he shows up from behind and lands a solid hit right on her back. Feeling the strike, the creature writhes completely, unable to understand what just happened. Already on top of the monster, he says he's been hunting her all year long. Then he reveals that he needs her heart to feed his crayon. Looking down, he gives the final order, commanding her to die now. At that moment, his sword embedded in the creature's back begins to take effect. Suddenly, a massive explosion happens, coming directly from the monster's body. Absorbing all the energy, his sword begins to change form. At that moment, the marks on the blade start joining together in a different way. With the transformation complete, he observes the final result of his weapon. The sword's new form is revealed, now much larger and more imposing. Holding his new sword, He analyzes the result of the transformation. With a smile, he tells Crayon that she's gotten much stronger. From afar, the boy asks if he's a crazy old man for talking to himself. Seeing the boy, the old man is surprised that he's still alive there. From down below, he responds that he really almost died because of the fall. Remembering the scene, he was thrown with full force toward the hole. While falling, he looked at the battle that continued up above. In desperation, he grabs his head, screaming because of the situation. During the fall, some stone spikes end up hitting him full on. Unable to stop, he ends up crashing hard at the bottom of the hole. Lying there, he says he survived again for being a stubborn bastard. He explains that his reflexes improved with the hits, and that's why he survived. Warning that the dungeon is going to collapse, the old man grabs him and says they need to get out. Not understanding the situation, he asks why the old man is holding him. At that moment, the old man starts laughing really loud and boisterously. Leaping away, he says goodbye and leaves the boy behind again. Falling, he screams that the old man is crazy, worse than some guy named Park Manho. Suddenly, he lands hard in the sand, looking up completely confused. Right after, a portal opens up, throwing him forcefully away from there. While the boy spits out sand, the old man explains that they're outside the dungeon. Looking serious, he tells the boy to listen carefully to what he's about to say. He reveals that he has a use for his ability, but right now he's useless. Pointing the way, he asks if the boy wants to go back to his old life. Then he offers the other option, which is to follow him and become someone better. Confused, he asks what the old man is talking about and for how long it would be. The old man responds that he doesn't know. It could take months, years, or even decades. Telling him to make his choice, the old man leaves the boy completely paralyzed. At that moment, he says the choice is to go back to normal life or take a huge risk. Staring intently at the boy, he tells him to finally make his choice. Laughing, he tells the old man not to make him laugh with this story about choices. Pointing in the old man's direction, he asks if the man has completely lost his mind. He then questions whether the old man wants him to drop everything to travel in the desert. Confirming the question, the old man says that's exactly what he just said. Turning to the side, he warns that then there's nothing more to be said between them. Walking up to him, the boy states with certainty that he's going along on this journey. He explains that he needs to settle scores with those who pissed him off, but right now he's weak. Smiling, he warns that the old man is also included on his personal list. At that moment, he states that the old man is the strongest person he's ever met in his life. Laughing, the old man asks if he's sure he's going to die then. Clenching his fist, he says he's certain he'll become the strongest of all. The old man then warns that one day he'll still regret all that certainty. Starting to walk, he hurries him along, and the boy asks him to stop cursing at him. In the middle of the desert, the two begin their long journey under a scorching sun. Unable to keep up the pace, he shouts, asking the old man to walk a little slower. Exhausted, he asks the old man for a break, since they've been walking for 6 hours. Continuing to walk, the old man just stops and looks back without saying a word. Shouting in anger, he questions why the old man doesn't respond and complains about his mood. With intense heat, he complains about the temperature, saying it must be over 120 degrees. Having difficulty walking, he says he's going to get heat stroke at this rate. Seeing the tired boy, the old man calls him a fool for not using his power. Not understanding, he asks what the old man means by that about the power. Shouting, he says it's easy to talk, since he only awakened a few days ago. With a look of contempt, the old man asks what that matters to the situation. Then he defends himself, saying he's just an F-class, unlike the old man. Grabbing him, the old man yells at him to stop talking nonsense about classes. Being held, he says that people who are born S-class are just lucky. Angrily, the old man asks if he's going to give up just because he wasn't blessed. Looking at the old man, he just repeats the word blessed, processing the information. Then he tells the boy to stop whining and just use his ability. Clenching his fist, he faces the old man, who says the power is all his. At that moment, he explains that the boy must figure out on his own how to use his powers. Holding his arm, the old man applies force, almost breaking his bone. Throwing him toward the creatures, the old man warns him to consider himself dead. With difficulty, he tries to stay on his feet in the soft desert sand. Concentrating his power, he begins to manipulate the sand around him. He then realizes his range is short, but he can work with that. Seeing his feet sinking, he says he can save energy if he solves this. Trying an idea, he condenses the sand to make it completely solid. Seeing that it worked, he runs happily, saying that now walking became easy. But he realizes this uses too much mana, so he decides to discard the idea. Testing something else, he concentrates mana in his legs to make it easier. He then realizes this doesn't use his ability, and the old man just watches. Even falling and failing, the old man sees that he keeps trying without giving up. Analyzing from afar, he notes that his mana control is better than his rank. After many attempts, he finally manages to use the power and shouts that it worked. Excited, he goes to the old man and says that now walking has become much easier. Provoking the old man, he asks what the man is going to do now that he walks well. Out of patience, the old man lands a full-force blow right on his head. Lying on the ground, the old man warns him to stop wasting energy on useless things. Trying to wake him up, he shouts forcefully, asking the boy to breathe. Waking up disoriented on the ground, he asks where he could be now. Sitting nearby, the old man says he finally woke up and was wasting time. Complaining that he's covered in wounds, the old man throws a piece of meat at him. Looking at the ground, he sees the piece of meat that was thrown his way. Then the old man tells him to listen while he eats, because he's going to tell a story. He explains that in the old days, being weak wasn't a threat to survival. Lying down, he hears the old man say the world changed, and he never got used to it. After that, the old man warns him to use his own strength to get up if he doesn't want to die. Sitting on the ground, he says that's fine and he already got the message. Staring at nothing, he starts thinking about everything he just heard. He then realizes the old man must have lived for a very, very long time. Watching the old man eat, he notices he doesn't chew, but softens the food with saliva. Eating the meat, he complains the old man could have taught him that before. At that, he understands the old man is showing him how to survive, not handing him everything. Already on their feet, the two continue the long journey through the endless desert. At night in the desert, he asks for one more and the old man tells him to shut up. With the cold arriving, he ends up sneezing really loud because of the temperature. Complaining about the cold, he says he forgot how the desert gets at night. He then complains he barely slept, since the old man spent the night talking to himself. Asking for water, he sees the old man wringing out his own clothes to drink. Angry, he realizes the old man is keeping all the water for himself. Imitating the old man, he starts licking the dew accumulated on his clothes. At that, he promises to get revenge, and the old man calls him a fool for a moment. Shouting, he corrects himself, and the old man asks if he can already feel that. Confused, he looks up and asks what exactly he should be feeling. Suddenly, he feels a strange vibration, looking in all directions. Soon after, he realizes there's more than one, and they're coming fast. Being surrounded, several creatures appear in front of them in the darkness. The old man then explains they're horned hyenas, which were spotted by them. After that, he asks if the boy can survive, or if he needs help. Several creatures advance growling, ready to take their final strike at him. Smiling, he points and says for sure he doesn't need any help. Then he gets ready, shouting that he'll handle everything alone and survive. Angry, he concentrates the sand at the tip of his finger to attack. Next, he fires a strike, throwing the creatures far away from him. Focused, he continues analyzing the situation for his next move. With his power, he manages to hit several enemies at once. Seeing there are many, he shouts, asking how many enemies are there. Almost out of strength, he says he needs a plan to get out of there alive. At that, he realizes he needs efficient attacks and to control his mana. Trying to think, he looks for a way to fight using less of his energy. At that moment, one of the creatures approaches very slowly to attack him. Shouting for it to back off, he lands a powerful strike on the beast. In pain, he says the crazy beast made a hole in his arm. Looking at the wound, he wonders if that's really an actual hole. Several hyenas advance in a pack, running in the same direction to attack. Being surrounded by the creatures, he finds himself cornered in the middle of the desert. Suddenly, he realizes he only needs to make a hole in each one of them. Using his power, he creates several sand strikes, attacking the enemies. Laughing, he says he doesn't need to blow up their heads, since a hole already works. He understands that mana is life, so he can't waste his power foolishly. Using the minimum mana possible, he seeks combat with better cost-effectiveness. Seeing the old man also fights that way, he continues the battle smiling. Meanwhile, a hyena bites the old man, who laughs, saying it tickles. Right after, he gets angry, shouting at the creature that bit him. Surrounded, he raises his sword and says he won't let any of them live. With a furious look, he prepares to finish off all the enemies there. Seeing the scene, the boy shouts that the old man is going to do that again. Then the old man shouts with all his strength, ordering to exterminate them all. Suddenly, several strikes cut through the air, going in every possible direction. Being caught in the middle, the boy screams while trying to dodge the strikes. Looking to the side, he complains the crazy old man doesn't even care about him there. After the attack, all that remains on the ground is a pool of blood. Seeing the bodies, he wonders if the old man is human to do that. He then decides it's better to stop being so arrogant from now on. Mounted on the leader, the old man says she complains too much for an alpha. Angry, the hyena starts releasing several lightning bolts from her body at once. Receiving the strike, he realizes the creature is at least rank B. The hyena then releases an enormous amount of power, surrounding the entire area. Shouting, he warns the old man to be careful with the attack that's coming. Not caring, the old man just extends his hand and receives the entire strike. Confused, he's left understanding nothing, just pointing at what happened. Relaxing, the old man says the strike is a great massage for his shoulders. Then he warns that the massage is over and tells the creature to die for good. With a precise strike, he attacks the hyena and ends the fight. Laughing, he says it's better to ignore that monster for his own sanity. After the fight, he asks if they're leaving already, and the old man is surprised. With the horn in his hand, he explains that thing is good for making a great weapon. Throwing the horn, he tells the boy to pick up the item that's on the ground. Saying it's a dagger, the old man warns that now the food is on him. He then explains the hyena's meat is toxic, but the flank isn't. Telling him to hurry up, the old man warns that the sun is already rising. Shouting, "Yes, sir," he prepares for the new task he received. Eating the meat, he happily says that's great and continues eating. Then he comments he's thirsty, but at least now he has plenty of food. With his new ability, he says walking on the sand got much easier. Provoking the old man, he asks if the man is jealous of his ability. With no patience for jokes, the old man tries to land a direct strike on him, but he manages to dodge, shouting that the old man missed the strike this time. Putting him on the ground, the old man complains about his arrogance over one ability. Fallen on the sand, he says it was just a joke and that he's thirsty. Suddenly, he stops, feeling a different humidity in the desert air. Seeing the old man looks in the same direction, he realizes it's not his imagination. Looking at the dune, he finally understands there's an oasis right there. In the middle of the desert, the two continue their journey under a blazing sun. Climbing the dune, they finally find what they've been searching for. With a smile, he shouts that it's real, the oasis he'd only heard about in rumors. Seeing the lake, he's amazed, shouting the name of that place at the top of his lungs. Running, he shouts happily about finding water after such a long search. Watching the scene, the old man just observes him with a look of disapproval. Reaching the edge, he shouts finally, ready to jump into the water at once. Diving headfirst, he enjoys the water, relaxing after so long. Drinking the water, he says he can feel it soaking through his entire body. Lying by the shore, he celebrates feeling the coolness after so many days. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and wonders what that strange light is. Looking up, he sees a bright, hot light at the bottom of the water. Confused, he says he's suddenly feeling sleepy for no reason. As he passes out, a voice shouts, telling him to wake up right now. From outside the water, the old man shouts, running in his direction to help. Coming out of the water, he looks back and sees the old man standing on the dune. Suddenly, a giant creature emerges from inside the oasis water. Grabbing him forcefully, the old man pulls him away from the water's edge. Coming out of the water, the creature charges full force at the old man. "Now safe!" he shouts while watching the scene unfold. Leaping toward the monster, the old man prepares for combat. Gripping his weapon's handle firmly, he prepares for the strike. With a powerful blow, he hits the creature dead on, raising tons of water. Impressed by the scene, he says that's what he heard about in the rumors. Looking at the sky, he finally realizes that's a real rainbow. Explaining the situation, the old man says the monster lures prey with its light. With an unfriendly look, he turns in the boy's direction. Without warning, he lands a full-force blow right to the boy's face. Fallen on the ground, the old man asks what happened to everything he taught him. Shouting loudly, he warns that idiots like him are the first to die. Shaking his head, he answers yes, and the old man just sighs. Turning his back, the old man tells him to start skinning the creature right there. He then explains that the belly skin is perfect for making a cloak. Asking if the old man needs a cloak, he puts his hand to his head. Shouting, the old man says the cloak is for him, and that he's getting dumber by the minute. With a smile, he apologizes and says the thing looks like a fish. Looking at the creature, he comments that it looks like a fish from Earth. Then he says it's the first time the boy is seeing one, and to look carefully. Confused, he says he'd never seen a fish in his life before. Starting the work, he tells himself that fish are really scary. Out of patience, the old man asks if he's trying to bring the fish back to life. Seeing that the skin is tough, he realizes it's going to be harder than he thought. Trying a new tactic, he concentrates to channel his mana into the dagger. With mana in the weapon, he manages to sharpen the blade and cut the skin. Then he scrapes the fins, turning them into very sharp needles. With the tendons from the meat, he realizes he can use them as thread. Seeing the final result, he's impressed with what he managed to make. Lying down, the old man says he turned a good fish into a pile of trash. Saying he has plenty of materials, he states he'll try just one more time. On a dark night, the desert landscape stretches across the entire place. Shouting, the young man celebrates that he finally managed to finish what he was doing. After 8 failures, he thinks he could sell the item at Xeon Boutique. Startled, he reacts, saying no way, nobody can take his cloak. Telling him to stop fooling around, the old man orders him to eat what he brought. Pointing in surprise, he hears that it's a rare medicine, a gallbladder. Then the old man warns that if he doesn't eat it, he'll die. Complaining about tired arms, he insists the boy take it already. With a fixed stare, he swallows hard before making a decision. Decided, he bites down, saying it's bitter, but better than death. Holding the item, he questions what it is he's eating. Eating more, he feels like he's eating clouds and doesn't feel full. Finishing the last piece, he ends up eating everything quite quickly. Sitting near the fire, the old man says, now it's time to burn. Asking what he was talking about, his body starts glowing from the inside. With a contorted face, the young man starts coughing and screaming in pain. Grabbing his own neck, he says this is way more than hot. Shouting, he says his body and his mana are out of control, feeling intense pain. Watching from afar, the old man simply tells him to hang in there. Meanwhile, he explains that everything in this oasis disappears into quicksand, but that even there, the monsters are reborn and return once more. At that, the boy lands a blow on him, shouting at the old man. Desperate, he begs him to stop with the sentimentality and just save him already. Turning his face, the old man just watches the younger one's desperation. Threatening the old man with death, he hears the other is trying to sleep. Fallen in the sand, he wonders where he is and what happened. Suddenly, a face appears, asking if he finally woke up. Taking a fright, he shouts that the old man almost killed him from a heart attack. Asking if he slept well, he hears from the boy that he actually passed out. Asked about how his body feels, he responds that he feels the same. But then he stands up, realizing that actually his body is different. Now he feels light, with strong muscles and mana flowing abundantly. Impressed, he wonders how he grew so much suddenly and what happened. At that, the old man reveals the change was because of the monster's gallbladder. Continuing the explanation, he says the item gives strength to endure the desert. Surprised by the item's value, he asks if it wasn't a problem to receive it. Irritated, the old man shouts he only gave it because he's weak and needs to be useful. Promising to be useful, the boy hears he needs to eat before they leave. After some time, the desert sky remains clear and very hot. Looking at the bones, the old man comments the meat lasted 4 days. With everything ready, he warns the boy it's time to leave. A slight confident smile appears on the face of the finally recovered boy. With an excited shout, he answers yes and follows the old man through the desert. Leaving everything behind, they depart amid a sandstorm. Amid a strong sandstorm, the young man continues his journey. Asking if that's a storm, he says to him it seems like a breeze. Observing his companion, he notices the old man can walk without needing to rest. Finding the silence strange, he comments the old man hasn't spoken a word in days. After 2 weeks of walking, he questions if his guide knows where they're going. At that moment, a giant monster appears right behind him making a noise. Telling the beast to shut up, he lands a direct blow on the creature. Sighing tiredly, he wonders how much longer until they arrive but feels something. With a surprised expression, he turns his face to look back. Noticing the creature is resilient, he sees it still standing. Realizing it won't be easy to get past, he notices his feet are stuck. Surrounded by several enemies, he realizes they're not messing around. Then he prepares, saying, if it's a fight, bring it on. Shouting for them to die, he stomps with great force on the sandy ground. Coming out of the sand, a swarm of creatures advances in his direction. Preparing for combat, he says he's going to use a special move. With a single motion, he launches a powerful sand strike at the enemies. Then he comments that stormy days are great because of the sand. Suddenly shouting, he realizes the old man vanished and left him alone. Complaining about the lack of loyalty, he says that's why the old man is alone. Running through the sand, he wonders if the old man heard what he said. Worried, he starts apologizing in case the old man heard the offense. Always staying alert, he could react instantly when a magic beast appeared. But this time, while running, he realized what he felt was different. What was approaching him wasn't just a beast, it was a terrible presence. Emerging from the sand, a countless swarm of giant ants surrounds the boy. Impressed by the quantity, he wonders where that army of monsters came from. Shouting for the old man, he warns that the enemies are too numerous for him. Meanwhile, the old man just observes the whole situation from afar, without interfering. Determined to fight, he says he can't keep crying like a child. Realizing the intention, he concludes that this is a test left by the old man. With a smile, he shouts that it doesn't matter if it's 1,000 or 10,000. Advancing against the swarm, he begins landing several blows on the creatures. Showing his teeth, he continues fighting ferociously against the giant insects. Managing to get closer, he lands a direct hit on one of the creatures, but soon he's overwhelmed, shouting that he takes back what he said and there are too many. Pinned to the ground, he calls them cowards for attacking all at once. Realizing the danger, he finds himself completely buried by all the monsters. Then a huge explosion happens, raising a massive curtain of sand. After the dust, the sand moves, showing the fight isn't over yet. Quickly emerging from the ground, he uses a stone pillar to save himself. Looking down, he's startled to realize he's in a giant anthill. Believing they don't fly, he says he needs to go to a higher place. At that instant, he's hit from behind, receiving an unexpected blow. Balancing on a rock, he faces the monster that manages to reach him in the air. Completely shocked, he wonders how that's even possible. Then the creature advances quickly and strikes him with a powerful blow. Being thrown far away, he screams while being dragged through the desert sand.
Impacted against the ground, he coughs, feeling the force of the attack he received. Fallen and breathless, he can barely stand up among the enemies. Even badly wounded, he raises his head with a look of pure determination. Looking into the distance, he calls for the old man who continues just watching the fight. With a confident smile, he tells his master to just keep watching. Shouting, he promises he'll show how he'll survive this entire situation.
Liking the attitude, the old man stands up saying that's the spirit. He explains that his ability is a blessing in the desert world, but if he used that power for luxury, everything would have been the end. According to him, the awakened must master and evolve their own unique abilities, so they don't become common soldiers, manufactured like products on an assembly line. Observing the horizon, he says he still can't forget that. Observing the horizon, he says he still can't forget one thing. Remembering the tragedy, he recalls what happened 100 years ago. Back then, he saw many people die in front of him without being able to help. He lost his companions, neighbors, his family, and even his daughter. Unable to protect anyone, he saw everyone he loved die right in front of him. But he says the boy is different from how he was before. Affirming that the young man has potential, he tells him to cross the line of death. As a result of throwing himself into battle, he'll have a great reward. He'll become stronger, just like what's happening at that exact moment. Shouting, he asks the monsters if they don't feel like they're lost. Ignoring the provocation, the creatures keep advancing in his direction without stopping. Creating a sand missile, he says it's a simple move, but useful. Then he fires the sand projectile with speed against the enemies. Combining gravity and wind, he manages to create an even stronger blow. With his arms open, he releases a sand power 10 times greater. Shouting with fury, he declares that this is the end for all of them. He says they failed to kill him, so they lost the fight. Observing the scene, the old man comments on how excited the boy is. Looking up, he notices several strange cocoons floating in the air. Alone in the desert, he observes the landscape devastated by the great battle. With a determined smile, he clenches his fist feeling victorious. But when shouting for the old man, he's hit by an unexpected blow. With a scared face, he wonders how he was caught by surprise. A giant creature grabs him from behind without making any sound. Questioning the stealth, he realizes he was hit by some poison. Then he understands that his mana control vanished because of the poison. Shouting at the monsters, he asks if they think this will stop him. With no chance to react, he receives another strong blow from the giant monster. With wide eyes, he realizes the situation got really bad. Fallen on the ground, he wonders where he is, noticing it's a nest. Fallen on the ground, he hears a strange noise slowly approaching him. Then he realizes the place is full of giant ant larvae. One of the creatures crawls near him and starts biting his arm. Gripping tightly, the larva sinks its fangs into the boy's skin. Unable to move his body, he realizes he'll be eaten alive there. Desperate, he thinks that this is the end of his life. Meanwhile, he feels like his entire life passes before his eyes. Suddenly, the larva seems to get scared and moves away from him quickly. At that moment, a dark power explodes from inside the boy's arm. Startled by the situation, the adult ants look in the direction of the noise. Smiling, he crushes the larvae with a blow to the ground, finding it amusing. Shouting, he says he doesn't have good memories and refuses to die. Then, with his arm glowing, he shouts at the ants that are there. Releasing his power, he creates a massive explosion of energy around him. Observing the scene, the adult ants prepare for the new threat. With one blow, the creature advances, destroying the earth wall in front of it. As a result, the impact of the blow destroys the structure of the entire cave. Then, from the ground, several earth spikes emerge around the boy. Realizing his rank went up, he feels the poison disappear and his mana overflowing. Looking at his arm, he confirms the mark of his evolution has really appeared. Feeling the power, he notices his mana is at a totally different level. But even stronger, he faces the enemy with a worried look. Without a single scratch, the giant creature appears in front of him in an intimidating way. Then the monster charges forward, throwing him far with a single powerful blow. Screaming, he questions the strength of the beast that breaks rocks so easily. Even taking several hits, the monster's shell remains completely intact. Surprised, he realizes his attacks didn't even leave a scratch. Placing his hand on the ground, he says he can't win the fight like this. Facing the monster, he understands he won't be able to leave a single mark. In that case, he needs to think of a way to break that armor. Without crushing or piercing, he looks for a way to rip off its protection. Then the creature gets caught by a large amount of earth that traps it. Having an idea, he says he's going to twist and rip off its armor. Screaming desperately, the monster tries to break free from the earth prison. Then the creature concentrates an energy blast in its mouth to attack. Watching the strike, the boy prepares for what's coming his way. In great pain, he screams, asking what kind of attack that is. Sensing the high-frequency waves, he feels his brain almost exploding. Quickly, the sound waves spread throughout the underground cavern. Surprised, he can't believe the monster was hiding an ability like that. Determined, he says he'll fight with everything he has against the enemy. Now he's ready for anything, no matter if he or the monster dies. Facing the creature, he warns they'll see who comes out of this fight alive. With a war cry, he charges forward to fight to the death. Suddenly, in a dark place, he seems to lose control of his body. Fallen on the ground, he wonders what's happening to his body. Raising his hands, he questions if that was his true limit. Complaining about his useless body, he falls lamenting how weak he is. Appearing suddenly, he says the boy is pathetically weak indeed. Holding him in his arms, the old man warns he'll die if he sleeps there. With a weak smile, he manages to call out to the old man who saved him. Saying to let him deliver the final blow, he hears that he's not useless. Explaining the queen was strong, he praises the boy for fighting to the end. Even being praised, he says he can't can't hear anything with his eardrums burst. Surprised about the burst eardrums, the old man carries him by the collar. Being dragged on the ground, he asks where they're taking him now. Arriving at a new place, the old man uses his weapon to open the way. Placed in front of the item, the boy asks what that thing is. Looking at the master, he insists on knowing what that object is. With a message on the wall, he says to eat the queen's egg. Reading the message on the wall, he wonders if he's supposed to eat that. Looking at the glowing egg, he questions if it's really possible to eat something like that. Then he asks the old man if it'll hurt like the monster's gallbladder. Receiving an answer, he realizes he can't hear what the old man says. Determined, he prepares to eat, thinking that won't kill him. Even without knowing the taste, he eats the item all at once. With a surprised face, he shouts that it's delicious. With his eyes wide open, he asks the old man if there's a little more. Suddenly, his body gets pierced, and he asks what's happening. The effect causes an inversion of organs, turning everything inside him. Being a lethal poison, the queen's egg inverts the organs of whoever eats it. His organs are pierced and twisted, causing unbearable pain until death. Screaming in agony, he asks the old man what he made him eat. Telling him to be quiet, the old man says to get used to it quickly. With his cheeks full, he wonders how he could get used to that. Spitting everything on the ground, he starts coughing with great pain in his body. Raising his hand, he looks at the dark liquid that came out of his mouth. Remembering a happy moment, he thinks he finally had someone to trust. Asking if he was just an idiot, he slowly loses consciousness. With his body thrown on the ground, he stays completely motionless in the dark cave. Approaching the dead queen, the old man says now it's time to see. With a precise strike, he shoves his hand into the creature's body. While searching for something inside, he continues to rummage through the monster's interior. Pulling out a glowing item, he finally rips out what he was looking for. With the mana stone in his hand, he celebrates saying he hit the jackpot. Determined to take advantage of everything, he says he'll take all the ants too. Having a moment of reflection, he stays silent for an instant. Looking at nothing, he says he's sorry, his longtime friend. He states that if the boy is weak, his fate will be death. Leaving the body behind, the old man prepares to leave the cave. Speaking to his sword, he says they both know there's not much time left. Waking up in a dark place, the boy wonders if he's still alive. Then the old man appears, warning he finally woke up and calls him a fool. Returning to the fight, a huge sand explosion is caused by his power. Complaining about the dust, the old man tells the disrespectful boy to stop the mess. Looking carefully, he seems surprised with the attitude the boy shows. Seeing he's taking it seriously, the old man calls him an idiot. Getting caught by the strike, he tells the boy to stop that and calm down. Thrown back, he questions why all of this is happening to him. With a scream of rage, he asks why the old man tried to kill him. Insisting on the question, he doesn't understand the reason for the attack he suffered. Extending his hand, he warns that he'll never be able to forgive that betrayal. At that, several stone spikes form, showing a bit of his power. The sharp rock points seem ready to attack at any moment. Launching himself to the side, he moves with speed through the dark cave. Panting, he extends his hand with a dark aura surrounding his entire body. Then the old man questions what he's doing, calling him an idiot. Saying that the egg affected his brain, he tells the boy to think a little. Shocked, he realizes that the old man withstood the blows without a single scratch. Explaining that he's weak, the old man asks why he would use poison to kill him. With nothing to answer, he just agrees with what he just heard. Besides poison, the egg also removes toxins and impurities from the entire body. Finally, the empty space is filled with mana, and he felt it. His body now overflows with energy, with the mana several times stronger. Looking at the old man, he realizes he was completely wrong about everything. Apologizing, he hugs the master, saying he wasn't in his right mind. Telling him to back off, the boy realizes he can hear again. Calling him an idiot, the old man tells him to stop crying already. At that, he acknowledges to the sword that the boy could have died. With a determined face, he understands he only survived by being strong enough. Clenching his fist, he thinks that was a pretty risky bet. Then he carries the boy on his shoulders, saying not to be forgiven. Not understanding anything, he asks why the old man is holding him again. Showing his teeth, a wide smile forms on the old man's face. Pointing upward, he warns that time's up and they need to get out fast. With a frightened face, he can't believe what he's seeing. Changing scenes, 3 small creatures poke at a strange creature in the sand. Suddenly, a giant pillar of earth explodes forcefully from the ground. Laughing loudly, he asks if the boy enjoyed traveling much faster. Then he warns that the boy shouldn't have slept for 4 days straight. Calling the boy pathetic, he suddenly notices something on the distant horizon. Questioning what it is now, he says nothing else can manage to surprise him, but in the same instant his face fills with sweat and pure astonishment. Seeing a giant creature, he screams, asking what the hell that is. Even at 30 kilometers away, the magical beast was truly enormous. At that, the old man explains that's the mobile fortress, called Archelon. Being a rank B beast, its defense surpasses even rank A. Shocked, he asks if people really ride on that insane monster. With a terrified face, he hears that the world is truly vast, and that there are monsters capable of riding on giant beasts like that one. Standing before the creature, the old man tells him to witness everything with his own eyes. Jumping from the top of the creature, an unknown figure descends at high speed. Landing right in front of them, the person touches down with a great impact. Asking who that is, the boy hears from the old man to just stay quiet. Saying it's been a long time, he finally reunites with the old friend. Finally meeting him again, the old man calls him by the name Deoden. Smiling, he jokes that his friend lost even more teeth, calling him Pavilsa. Complaining about his energy, the other old man says he's the real freak. Asking what brings him there, he hears that the place is infested with ghouls. Then he says that running from ghouls is growing old and vain, quite different from him. Shocked, the boy wonders how those two old men managed to be so strong. Whistling loudly, the old man calls for the creature that brought him there. Looking up, the shadow of the giant creature covers the trio in the desert. Impressed, the boy is left speechless by the size of the monster that appeared. Stopping in front of the creature, the old man simply tells them to get going. Hidden and scared, the boy observes the scene with great fear and caution. Facing the creature's giant eye, he decides it's better to stay quiet. Pointing at the boy, he asks if that new face is a subordinate. Holding the boy, he responds that he just picked up some trash from the ground. Surprised, he comments that a man like that finally brought someone along. Adjusting his glasses, he jokes saying the world must be near its end. With an astonished expression, the boy is impressed by what he sees. Arriving in a city, he asks what kind of place that is. Hearing it's the Mort clan, he asks if they're all blood relatives. Then the other old man explains they're all descendants who think they're chosen. Questioning what he knows, the clan leader stares at him with contempt. Then the old man responds that they're parasites who will be abandoned one day. Asking them to save the conversation for later, he adjusts his glasses on his face. With a strong stomp, he slams his foot on the ground with considerable force. Now in a room, he invites them to see the merchandise first. Creating an energy sphere, the old man opens a portal with his hand. From there comes a pile of treasures, weapons, and bones from various creatures. Impressed, he asks how many things the old man killed to get all that. Then the boy asks where he gets all those items he keeps. Irritated, the other old man can't believe he's traveling with an idiot. Demanding an answer, he hears that he shouldn't have talked back to his master. Analyzing the items, he says they're all high quality and flawless. Telling him to cut the flattery, the old man asks how much he can give for everything. Hearing the payment is in mana stones, he draws his weapon. Asking what he wants, the old man says he has no use for stones. In exchange, he asks for a breastplate made from the Ant Queen's remains. Holding a hot mug, he takes a brief pause before continuing. Besides that, he also asks for a subspace tool for his apprentice. Questioning the requests, he says the old man doesn't need a breastplate. Stating it's not for him, the old man lifts the boy's hood. Then he reveals that all the items he asked for are for the boy. With wide eyes, the clan leader is surprised by the revelation. Thinking he cares about someone, he concludes the boy is useful. Shouting, he calls for someone named Kaylee, who enters the room running. Slamming hard, the door closes behind the person who just arrived. Looking to the side, the boy observes the scene with attention and curiosity. With a flushed face, he's impressed by the girl's beauty. Entering the room, she asks her grandfather if he called her there. Looking at her, the boy says she's really very beautiful. Then the old man asks if she still has the subspace bracelet. She responds that she doesn't have the bracelet, but rather a very well-enchanted gauntlet. In disbelief, she questions her grandfather, saying the gauntlet is very precious. Saying the little girl became an enchanter, he compliments her with a smile. With a smile, he praises his friend's granddaughter for her useful skill. Agreeing with him, she bows in a gesture of respect to the visitor. Telling her to get going, he asks for Noel to make a breastplate for them. Agreeing, she calls the boy to follow her and get the gauntlet. Watching the two leave, the old men are left alone in the room again. Walking through the streets, the boy follows the enchanter silently through the city. Curious, he asks what her relationship is with that monster from before. Then she explains they met by chance, and now he drags her around. Shouting, she's shocked that the monster is dragging him around. Remembering a scene, the boy realizes something important about that woman. In his memory, he sees the old man laughing while surrounded by blood. Looking at her, he understands that she has the same trauma as him. Warning him to be careful, she says he's a monster in human skin. Arriving at a workshop, he asks if that's where they need to go. With an excited smile, she confirms that's her private workshop. Warning him not to be shocked, she says he's never seen anything like it. With an astonished face, he's left speechless by what he sees inside. Scared, he shouts, asking if all that are magical and rare items. Showing an item, she talks about the harmony between the frame and the metal. With an excited smile, he asks if the item can repair itself. Confirming, she explains the gauntlet will make him an unimaginable monster. In disbelief, he asks if he can really take something so precious. With the gauntlet in his hands, he says he'll remember everything. Taking the item, he doesn't understand the girl's reaction when handing it over. Pulling back forcefully, she refuses to let go of his gauntlet. Then the two begin a dispute over the item, shouting at each other. Shouting, she says she won't hand over her creation to just anyone like him. Celebrating, he says the item she lovingly created is now his. Suddenly, a strong tremor begins begins to shake their entire workshop. Seeing her reaction, he asks if he should return the item he took. Looking up, she shouts that she heard the Archelons cry and that they've arrived. Scared, he desperately asks her who they are that's coming. Running to the door, she braces herself hard to try to protect herself. Meanwhile, in the other room, the two old men continue talking calmly. With a serious look, the old man says those guys are very persistent. Crossing the desert, the ghouls finally arrive at the mobile fortress location. Confirming they're the ghouls, she pulls him up the stairs in a hurry. As they run, he asks who exactly those people are that are coming. She explains they're the Black Shark Pirates, with an awakened captain. Running desperately, she says they're psychopaths who kill without thinking twice. Heading toward the door, he asks how a rank D can be so dangerous. Reaching the room, she screams desperately for her grandfather who's there. Then the two old men say they also saw the enemies approaching them. Questioning if they should move the Archelon, she hears they'd catch up too fast. With his hands together, he says, now is the time to finally fight back. Hearing a no, she screams without understanding what's happening. Raising his foot, the old man says the two of them will handle everything alone. Handing over a drink, he leaves the girl even more confused with the situation. Then he calls the boy, slapping his back hard. Pointing to himself, he asks if the old man is talking to him. Irritated, he says the boy needs to pay for the treasure he received. With his face sweating, he's left speechless at the master's proposal. Then the old man asks if he's afraid to face the enemy. Hearing the provocation, he reacts with a look of surprise and indignation. Leaving the fortress, he walks alone through the desert with the Archelon in the background. Irritated with the situation, he curses, not believing what he's doing. Remembering the provocation, he gets irritated for falling for such a cheap trick. Trying to calm down, he says he doesn't have time for that nonsense. With his eyes closed, he concentrates to sense the enemy's presence. Sensing the approach, he calculates they'll arrive in just 5 minutes. With the gauntlet equipped, he prepares for the great battle that's coming. He needs to figure out a way to defeat an awakened stronger than him. Then the old man calls his friend by name, drawing his attention to the conversation. Worried, he asks his friend if it's right to let the boy fight alone. Questioning about leaving the boy alone, he hears the boy is a rank E. Confident, he says if the boy loses, he dies, and that's it. Saying he's extreme, the old man warns him about the dangers of battle, but he believes if the boy shows his fangs, he can win. Shouting, he calls the boy's attention to give one last piece of advice. With his hands on his mouth, he yells for the boy to remember one thing. Clenching his fist, he listens carefully to the words the old man shouts. Finally reaching the target, they ask the captain what to do next. With a smile beneath the bandages, he prepares for combat. Shouting a no, he orders to cut off the limbs and throw them as food. With a war cry, all the gang members advance to attack. Mounted on camels, they ride to show who the Black Shark Pirates are. Advancing against the creature, they shout it's time for a massacre. Suddenly, an animal's paw steps hard on the desert sand. Jumping in front of the captain, a creature attacks him by surprise. With a quick strike, the monster sinks the captain into the desert sand. Startled, he screams, not understanding what that thing is that attacked him. Screaming to retreat, the sand begins to split and attack the pirates. Then the sand creatures advance, surrounding all the enemies in the desert. Asking if the captain is okay, one of the pirates helps him up. Shouting at the woman, he asks if they've fallen into some kind of trap. Suddenly, the boy appears and grabs the woman from behind, surprising her. Shocked, she asks since when he was there, not noticing his presence. With a serious face, the captain prepares to attack the boy who appeared. But with a single blow, the boy defeats the woman with a quick attack. With his eyes wide, the captain is shocked by the scene he saw. Pointing at the captain, he stares at him with his face covered in blood. With her body disfigured, the woman falls to the ground completely defeated. Wiping the blood, he says the captain is next to die. With a sword in his hands, a figure appears behind him to fight alongside. Advancing with speed, he lunges at the enemy with his weapon. With several strikes, he attacks the captain with a sequence of attacks. Surprised, the pirate wonders what kind of guy is this who appeared. Realizing his strike was blocked, he's shocked by the boy's defense. Screaming for his partner, he alerts him to the danger that's coming. Warning to look down, he jumps to avoid the sand attack. With a quick strike, he advances to attack the enemy with his sword. Irritated, the captain asks what kind of trick is that he used. Receiving a sand strike, he's thrown far with a strong impact. Questioning if that's sand, he gets up with his body slightly injured. Screaming with rage, he says a cheap sand trick won't stop him. With a powerful strike, he advances to attack the boy with all his strength. Asking for a pincer attack, he prepares to fight alongside his partner. Watching the two, the boy lands a hit on one of them quickly. With his face bloodied, he faces the enemy with a look of determination. Shouting, the old man calls the boy's attention to give important advice. Looking up, he hears the old man say he's worried about fighting. Shouting, he warns the boy to keep in mind they're not human. Confirming what he said, he reinforces that those enemies aren't truly human. He explains the pirates like to kill, torture, and massacre for fun. Besides that, they take pride in killing innocent women and children without mercy. Stepping on the blood, the boy prepares for the combat that's coming. With a serious look, he questions if creatures like those can be human. With his body surrounded by energy, The captain prepares to attack the boy. Irritated by the audacity, he charges forward with a look of pure hatred. Attacking with sand cocoons, the boy tries to trap the advancing enemy. But with an energy strike, the captain destroys all the cocoons easily. Calling the boy trash, he asks if he thinks that will defeat him. With his face turned back, he listens to the captain's threats carefully. Then the captain threatens he'll make him beg for his own death soon. With a serious look, he asks if those are his last words. Surprised by the question, the captain stares at him with a look of rage. With a smile on his face, the old man shows his confidence in the boy. Holding the sword, you prepare for the great battle that will come. Then he says, "You're nothing but a piece of trash." Amused, he can't believe the boy just called them trash. He says Klang was defeated by him in an instant without a chance, and that Masamoto also fell before his power just as quickly. Being recognized men, they wouldn't be defeated by a simple amateur. Questioning the boy's power, he wonders what kind of ability he uses. Then a sand dragon forms, attacking the captain with force. Clenching his fists, he prepares to strike back at the attack he received. Shouting, he says he won't play around with the boy's tricks anymore. Advancing, he tells the boy to stop hiding and face him. Ordering him to stop hiding, the captain challenges him to a fight. With a strike, he creates a whirlwind to suck the boy closer. Preparing a punch, he shouts, asking what the next move will be. With wide eyes, he's surprised by what he sees next. Shocked, he shouts without understanding, asking where the boy went. Looking around, he tries to find the boy who suddenly disappeared. Appearing suddenly, he lands a blow on the captain with his sword. Realizing the trap, the captain understands the boy predicted his attack. Saying finally, he warns that the boy is within his reach. Understanding he was lured in, he receives a precise strike from the captain. Shouting, he says the boy isn't the combat type, yet he closed the distance. With a serious look, the captain warns he has no idea of the danger. Showing his teeth, he shouts that a single mistake in battle will cost him his life. Saying he'll make him feel every blow, he attacks him in Masamoto's name. With a strong strike, he hits him with a punch to the stomach. The impact of the blow creates a shockwave, throwing the boy far away. With his body covered in energy, he continues to attack the boy with force. Shouting his companions' names, he unleashes several blows without stopping. While taking the beating, he hears the name of each one the captain was avenging. Saying that no matter the ability, he affirms it's useless now. Grabbing the boy's hand, he tells him to blame his weakness and die. With a punch, he tries to hit the boy with all his strength. Realizing the boy disappeared, he wonders how he escaped from his hands. Being sucked by the sand, he's dragged to the ground with force. Realizing he removed the gauntlet, the captain understands it was to escape. Calling him a rat, he launches himself toward the boy with speed. With a strike, he hits the captain squarely with a powerful kick. Realizing the critical error, he laments having panicked and let go. Looking at the wound, he notices the power of the blow clearly decreased. Then he understands the attack's lost momentum because of the gauntlet. Concluding he's of the wind attribute, he understands the sand is physical. With a punch, he hits the boy squarely with a strong blow. Shouting, he says he finally discovered all the boy's tricks. Believing he's weaker, the captain faces him with a smile. Questioning his audacity, he asks if the boy thinks he can beat him. With a smile, the boy stares back at him with a look of confidence. With a blow to the back, the captain is hit squarely by the attack. Shocked, he wonders if the boy aimed at his back all along. With a smile, he says the old man finally dropped his guard in the fight. Irritated, he says the boy used the same trick he did before. Noticing the missing gauntlet, he understands the boy is weaker, but it's impossible for a magic type to channel so much power through sand. Without an item to amplify, he says that shouldn't be possible to happen. Questioning the boy's identity, he prepares for the next attack. Not believing it, he says that can't be right at all. An ability to control sand, which manipulates the very world around them. Surrounded by thorns, he understands the true power of the boy he faces. Shouting, he says an ability like that shouldn't even exist. With a sand strike, the boy attacks him with all his strength. Shocked, the old man says the boy can control sand freely. Not believing what he sees, he says the world is his weapon. Being an experienced ghoul, Gawain would be a danger in a direct fight. Using his irregular status, the boy waited for the perfect opening to attack. Acquiring all the necessary experience, he learned everything just by his instinct. Absurdly, he managed to learn all that in the middle of the battle itself. Then he realizes the boy isn't just any tiger cub. Surprised by the analysis, he looks at his friend with admiration. Shouting his name